This program contains crazy material, including offensive language. Listening discretion is advised.
Join the guys for part one of a two-part series as they sit down with the talented Corey Dissin and talk motivation and marketing. So sit back, strap on those straitjackets, and join Big Jim and Brad Storm in a VO's padded room.
Our guest this week on a VO's padded room literally punches content marketing right in the face. He is the undisputed heavyweight champion of content, host of the Go Get It podcast, and author of 5 Steps to Help Achieve the Voiceover Dream. Let's not forget, he has also impacted over 100,000 unique voiceover projects through his illustrious career. It's time to get crazy in a VO's padded room, because Corey Dissin is locked in and strapped up.
Gentlemen, that was a kick-ass introduction, man. Illustrious. That's a new word, but I like that.
Trying to throw in new words that are bigger, make me look smarter, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, that was cool. I mean, depending on who I worked for, they might question that, but illustrious, I'll take it.
You know, I'd like to go back to the beginning. I'd like to go back to when you first kicked things off. You said 27 years you've been around.
Yes, sir.
In the business. And so let's go way back when and start from the beginning. Stroll
down memory lane. Well, I'm probably the luckiest, dumbest guy in the voiceover and production world, because I happened to land a job, my career, while I was still a junior in college.
Oh, wow.
I had an opportunity. I met someone in a class who was trying to make time with a young lady by bragging that he was a board op at WYSP Radio in Philly.
Okay.
And I desperately wanted to be in radio. I thought I was going to be the next Howard or, John DeBella or one of these guys. And I wanted to be behind the mic. And as soon as I heard WYSP, which was the Philly flagship for Howard, I was like, oh man, I got to get to know this guy. And became friendly with him. And then I just kind of popped the question, which was, what do I got to do to get into that radio station?
Yeah.
And he arranged an interview. I was 19 years old, wet behind the ears. He arranged an interview for me with the program director there, a little guy by the name of Tim Sabian. And if you don't know who Tim Sabian is, he was Howard's programmer for 20 plus years, a legendary radio guy. And he met with me, and I said, look, I'll clean the bathrooms with a toothbrush, man. You tell me. I just want to get in the door. And he gave me basically that job, which was coming in at 5 a.m. to screen phone calls for public affairs programming on Sunday mornings.
Oh, nice.
And me, I was 19 years old. I was working at nightclubs on Friday and Saturday nights, running the door at these places. So I would be out all night till 3 a.m, go home, take a quick hour nap, and then drive into the city to go do that. But that enabled me to meet the entire staff of the radio station. And you fast forward a little bit, all of a sudden they pick up the Philadelphia Eagles broadcast. And since I had been screening calls, they say, why don't you do that for the pre and post game shows? Mm-hmm. So I got a chance to meet Bill Campbell, legendary Philadelphia sports broadcaster.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And Merrill Reese. And all these, Philadelphia radio legends. I'm sitting there running around. They know me by my first name. So when it came time for me to get like an official internship, oh, by the way, I earned exactly $0 for
right.
When it came time for me to get an official internship through college, I didn't have to get an interview. They just said, just bring the piece of paper, we'll sign it. So got an internship. 2 weeks into my internship, keep in mind, I wanted to be on the air. That was my MO. I wanted to be the shock jock. I wanted to be the star, right? 2 weeks into my internship, the entire air staff is fired.
Oh, no. Everybody is gone.
Gone. Format change. I'm a big fan of stability. I got a bad habit. I like to eat 3 times a day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And as soon as I saw that scared the hell out of me. So I said to myself, what is the next coolest, sexiest thing other than being on the air that's a little more stable? And then I walked into Paul Turner's production studio. If you don't know who Paul Turner is, Paul was Howard's voice guy for over a decade, big voice of NFL films, et cetera, big promo voice. And he was 25 or 26 years old at the time, but was already a national, a national presence in the voiceover field. And he kind of took me under his wing.
Nice.
And he, I had to do some undesirable things like pick up his lunch at the Olive Garden and do his dry cleaning and run things to FedEx and type reel-to-reel labels with a typewriter for his dry voice at the end of the day. But what that enabled me to do was he said, listen, I'm going home for the day. It's 5, 6 o'clock. He said, you can basically hang out in the studio and teach yourself how to be an audio.
Right. Hone your craft.
And I wasn't, usually a 19, 20-year-old kid is out in some small market station, some little AM out in the middle of nowhere. Here I am in Market 5, Philadelphia, at a top rock production room, and I have the keys to the castle. So I would stay there all hours of the day and night, teaching myself how to use the console and the multi-track. This is before digital workstations.
What year was that, Corey?
That was, we're talking 92, 93.
Okay. Yeah.
And I would leave Paul little cassettes. I'd go home at 2, 3 in the morning. He'd come in 8, 9 in the morning. And then when I got back in there to help him out administratively, he would sit me down and he would say, okay, we're going to talk about how you did the compression here. And the reverb was all. And I'm like, I got a better education doing that than I ever did in my 4 years of college. What eventually happened was, and forgive me if I'm being a little long-winded here.
That's fine.
But what eventually happened was when I graduated, he brought me on from a few bucks an hour, 15 hours a week. And then he basically brought me on full time. But he said, in order to keep you full time, because I started producing up some of his stations and some of his little car dealer accounts and nightclubs and things. But he basically said, in order for me to justify paying you anymore, you got to go out and bring me new clients.
So you had to become a salesman.
I had to become a salesman. Yep. And I mean, look, I knew I had a big mouth. That's about it. And literally picked up a phone book with a phone with a cord. Yeah. And started dialing for dollars, man. And, turns out we picked up, 10, 12 clients, and then we started to make some money, moved out of Infinity Broadcasting, got our own shop out in the suburbs. And then we just kept growing the thing. And because I was the oldest brother, everybody that we hired as the company grew was, underneath me. I was the shop steward. Then I was the production director, then the general manager. Well, come 2003, Paul said, you know what, man, I just want to focus on my voiceover business. I don't want to run a corporation and worry about benefits and salaries and employees and overhead. So he sold the business and I went with the business. I was part of the deal, and I became vice president of that company. And I was running that ship up until July this year. And we were producing up anywhere between 600 and 700 commercials a month, both television and radio.
Wow. You talk about having a big mouth, but when you first start off, and I see a lot of people, when I went to Connecticut School of Broadcasting, I met a group of guys that they didn't want to do their internships because they wanted to be on air right away. And you have to pay your dues.
Oh, yeah.
This past year, I went back to radio because I want to get back on the air. I would like to get back on the air as a DJ, but I'm driving the van around. And I tell the guys, I said, you got to do what you got to do, and you got to pay your dues. You just don't start off at the top. How important is it to keep your mouth shut and keep your ears open?
Well, that's a skill that it's a lost art, Brad. I got news for you because you got to be able to pay your dues. You got to be able to earn it. And that's something I try to also, I pay forward to. I do a lot of public speaking, whether that's high schools, colleges, because we live in this instant gratification, microwave, punch the app world of getting things instantly. And folks think that they can get right to the CEO chair as soon as they get that diploma. And I try to tell them, man, that's just when the hard work starts. And I share that story that I told you about how I came up to say, listen, you see me now, pushing 50 years old, and you see the success. You didn't see all of the parties that I missed and the girls I couldn't go out with and the friends that made fun of me for working 2 o'clock in the morning on a Tuesday night and not getting a lot of sleep. And I don't whine or complain about that because I don't believe in luck. I think you kind of make it yourself. If you put
hard work,
man, hard work
people say,
beats talent.
if you pray hard enough, you can pray hard enough, but you got to put the time in.
You got to work. It's like I said, it's a lost art. I mean, I think I never thought I was the most talented guy. I thought my talent was I was willing to outwork everyone. Like, when I saw my face on TV in college doing video stuff, I said, ooh, I got a face for radio. When I heard my crappy air checks that I made, I said, boy, I'm probably not the best on or behind the mic talent. But I knew that I could outwork anybody. And, it's more than just me pounding my chest and being the tough guy. I've got, the scars to prove it. And I would tell this when I speak to high schools and colleges, I give them a quiz. I say, in 27 plus years of working professionally in this industry, and you can count up the days, it's about 10,000 days, just shy of that. How many days have I called out sick? The answer is 0. I've never called out sick in my entire professional career.
Hey, Corey, you talk about having the 2 ears, 1 mouth, listen twice as much as you talk. And coming into the VO world in my 40s, this isn't my first career. It was really humbling to have to start over, because 50-60% of me wanted to be at the top already, like you said. But I because of the Army taught me, hey, dude, you just got to get in there and, like I said, listen twice as much as you talk, and you got to start over. And that was really tough for me. So, it is a lost art, like you said, as far as the generation now.
Well, my dad told me a long time ago, and we joke about this now, but he said, when you talk to people, don't just hear what they say, listen. Don't hear, listen. He said, people do too much time hearing, waiting to say what they want to say. That's and true. Not enough time listening.
I love it.
And, look, I could, if you allowed me, I'll just keep talking for hours, but we're not getting anything accomplished. We're having a dialogue here. We need to communicate with each other in order so we can tell a good story together. And that's with anything you do. That's why you can be successful as a salesperson. That's why you can be successful in whatever career path you choose. If you listen to who's on the other end of that phone, on the other side of the desk, on the other end of the email, you got to be able to roll with the punches and not just try to stuff all your information down their throat. Or else people are going to get turned off by that.
I think the older I've gotten and doing interviews, I used to have like a list of like 20 questions I would always have, right? And like you said, you'd always be waiting to, I got to get all these questions in. But I like to wing it a little bit nowadays. It's just like, see where the conversation goes.
Totally.
And then, just take it from there.
I mean, if, look, you and I the three of us were hanging out on the internet. There's no reason why we shouldn't be talking if we weren't bellied up to the bar watching the ball game with the bowl of peanuts in front. There's
around
no way,
the corner.
Well, hey man, I'm on the way. But that's how I like to do it. I mean, I'm not a real formal guy. I'm a t-shirt guy. And I'm even though I've had the pleasure to mingle with some hot shots and rub shoulders with some important folks, man, I'm just a hardworking dude, and I just want to have a intelligent, spirited, candid conversation. That's all we're doing here. It's all good,
right? Yeah. There's one thing about being a hard worker, but if you're all over the place, right? A lot of times, if you won't get things done like you should. How important is it to be organized? In this business,
totally. And that's the reason I have a business. I'll be honest with you, is because, folks, if I didn't tell them they had a nose between their eyes, they wouldn't know how to take a breath. And look, and I love my clients, but there's a lot of bad information out there. And unfortunately, look, I'm the biggest champion for the voiceover business. It's given me every material thing I could have ever asked for, paid through my kids to go to school, all that kind of stuff. I'm very, very lucky. However, nowadays, especially since the internet really is jamming and the cost of equipment is going down and the barrier of entry is going down for folks.
Right.
There's a lot of bad information out there. And I'm trying my best, like the system for not just newbies entering the voiceover world, but for you guys, for established veterans. It's set up now for you to fail. It's not set up for you to succeed because it's predicated on some myths. And let me explain what those myths are, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
Of course, absolutely.
The first one is that you will get hired if you sound good.
I got a great voice.
Yeah, you got a big voice or whatever. I'm a great actor or whatever it is, or my demo is really good.
Yeah.
And so many folks think that just because they plop a pretty penny on a professionally produced demo, which in and of itself was probably done well by a good vendor, they think once that audio file hits their inbox, so do the jobs. That's not true.
Yeah.
Same thing with, I have an expensive microphone, or I have a whisper room or studio bricks or Source Connect or whatever. There's a myth out there that if you buy these items or if you partake in these traditional purchases, that the success comes flying in. And that is not what the voiceover business is about. What I try to preach is those things aren't differentiators anymore. Those are prerequisites. You have to have those. That's just like telling a baseball player because he has a Louisville Slugger bat that he's automatically guaranteed to hit 300.
Yeah.
Don't work that way.
Corey, let me interrupt real quick. But how much of that now is played on the generational, like you said, the generational thought of I need it now. It's the trophy for everybody. It's expected now. I have this demo that's produced $2,000 I paid for. I deserve it now. You know how much
there's a big part of it. That's that. And I'm not just picking on the young folks, but to answer your question, yeah, there's a big part of it. That's that. But there's also on the flip side of that, when you have the talent that is early 50s, that maybe was, king of the mountain years ago.
Yes. Yeah.
And now this whole new way of doing business and attracting business is so foreign to them. And it's frustrating for those talent that had a modicum of success back in the day. And now, because there's so many other people entering the field, it rubs them the wrong way that they're not achieving those jobs in the same fashion. The agent isn't calling them all the time. The agent isn't signing them to develop new talent. It's like it's more of the wild, wild west now.
That and change. A lot of people hate.
Oh, yeah.
They fear change. And as you get older, like you said, stability and structure. I know being in the Army for so long, it's like I need that structure. I'm used to that structure. So the change is the hardest part for, I think, like even for me, or my pride had to be stopped and punched in the face, if you will, knocked down. And so I like everything that you're saying here is kind of going, it all revolves around this one circle of, success, basically.
Well, and what I'm trying to preach out there, and every opportunity I get a chance to sort of spread the go get it gospel is what I like to call it, is that, Brad, you mentioned about hard work. I mean, that's the difference maker. It's being able to outwork. There's so many people that are in this business, and there are so many really good sounding voices out there. And if you don't do something to get noticed, if you can't raise your hand higher than all the kids, you're just not, the phone ain't going to ring. I was telling another, one of my clients just a couple of days ago on the phone. I mean, you guys, I'd like to think, are old enough to remember the TV show Welcome Back, Kotter.
Oh, I love that show. Still watch it on Antenna TV.
Well, there you go. So there was a character on there called Arnold Horseshack. You just did it, Brad. That ooh. Like, I'm trying to go be Arnold Horseshack. Don't be afraid to
That's
call
the
attention.
thing. A lot of people are afraid. They're worried about things being perfect.
Totally.
And you don't know if things are perfect, and things aren't probably going to be perfect, but you don't know if they're good or bad if you don't.
Lord, there's the sound, guys. You know what that means, don't you?
I'm afraid. Speaking of fear.
It's time for another round of VO's padded improv.
Ooh.
Oh, I love that. Today we've got Corey on the show here, and what we're going to ask you to do, Mr. Corey, is I've got a script up here from the Fight Club, that movie. You remember the Fight Club?
Oh, sure.
Meatloaf was in it.
From Brad Pitt.
Yes, he was. Yeah.
Or Edward Norton times 3.
I love that.
Right.
Anyway, yeah, and what I'd like you to do, we've got a script up here, like I said, do it in the voice of Mickey from the Rocky movies.
Oh, man, how appropriate.
And Mickey. Okay. So you've got the script, and we'll give it to you.
Okay, I'm going to text my wife real quick to buy me some lozenges real fast.
Yes.
Because something tells me I'm going to need one. So, all right, guys, I'll give it a whirl. Let's have some fun with this.
Yeah.
I'll do the best I can.
You can do it.
All right, here we go. Take 1.
Welcome to Fight Club, kid. The first rule of the Fight Club, you don't talk about the Fight Club. The second rule of Fight Club is you do not talk about the Fight Club. And the third rule of Fight Club is somebody else stop, goes limp, or taps out, the fight is over. How's that?
I love it. I love it.
Yes, man.
I love it, man. The Thoyad word. I love the Thoyad word.
Yeah, I see what you're saying about the lozenges.
Oh, man, that was good, bro.
Oh, my goodness. All right, wait. I'm going to take a sip of water here real
No,
quick.
go for
I have
it.
some
Go
pipes
for it.
for
That
the
was
rest.
good. I love it.
I was about to drink for you there, Corey.
Oh,
Man.
Lord.
I don't even think I could do that.
Well, you know, I guess it worked out for the best because you guys picked a character that, of course, I'm a big fan of the Rocky movies, and it ties in really nicely with my branding and stuff too. So
Right.
it's a good fit.
And this is a question too.
Go for it.
Have you been involved in the fight game at all? Because a lot of your stuff is revolved around the fight game.
I have been involved in the fight game in several different capacities. I've
High school. I'm just kidding.
well, beyond the schoolyard mix-ups, but I've always been sort of a boxing nerd, fight fan to begin with. You know, I've gotten a chance to meet some legendary heavyweight champions, George Foreman, Joe Frazier. But my specific involvement, so I've always been in pretty decent shape, was an athlete in high school. When after I went to college, I wanted to box. That was something I definitely wanted to do. I wanted to throw hands, and I had the rare opportunity to train with a former heavyweight champion, Tim Witherspoon, who was heavyweight champion in the mid 80s, and got to spar with his son, who was a pro fighter for a while. So I had that end of my fighting, I want to say history, but then also a quick little related story, and this is going to make total sense in a minute, so bear with me here.
No worries.
In 2008, there was a little something called the recession. I'm sure both of you guys remember that fun time.
Oh, yeah.
And, I took a 30% pay cut with the production company at that time just so we can keep things grooving. So I wanted to figure out a way that I could supplement my income. And because I'm a gym rat, I started showing people how to work out at my local gym. And I made a bet with myself in July of 2008. I said, if I can convince 10 people to pay me to train them, I'll turn it into a little business. Well, I got a dozen by the first of the year.
Nice.
And fast forward to when I sold that company 5 years later. Keep in mind, in the heart of the recession, I sold it. I had a building. I had 200 clients. I had 6 trainers that worked for me. And I had developed a system of training either soccer moms. I taught them boxercise.
Yeah.
At the same time, I was one of the first 10 people in the entire United States to hold a very specific certification, which was a mixed martial arts conditioning certification. Perfect. And I would train MMA guys to get in shape for their fights. So I had guys that I would roll with, and we would do tires and sledgehammers and all that crazy stuff. And I got a chance to walk the ring a couple of times with them too, which was a lot of fun. So, like I said, that's kind of, the genesis for my whole thing with my brand now, with Punch Failure in the Face and the Fight Club and, Knockout Network and all that stuff. I'm a fan. I enjoy it. I kind of did it a little bit. I got my toe in the water, so to speak. Yeah. So, to answer your question, that's kind of where it comes from.
I think a lot of times too, when you're training in the boxing realm or in MMA, you give up, you're going to get hurt. And totally. You learn that kind of gets, if you can continue through those grueling sessions, and you can, if you're fighting in the squared circle and getting victories or even a defeat, if you don't give up, that's going to help you in your business life as well.
Well, I mean, the boxing world is a microcosm for life. Mike Tyson said it best, and I can vouch for it. He said, everybody has a plan until you get punched in the face.
Yes, indeed.
And, I've gotten my bell rung plenty. I'm a big guy. I'm a strong guy. I can throw hands with the best of them, but I've also been hit hard, and it doesn't feel good. No. And, what are you going to do? You going to lay down? No. You're going to, just like Mickey says, get up, you son of a bitch.
Yeah. The case with voiceover, you say a lot of people come in and they're, the entry is more available to people, but a lot of people are also leaving quickly as well. Because then they realize that it's not just the voice that I need. It's a lot of other things. And, content marketing is one of them.
True.
And you have to be a machine when it comes to pushing out content. And you got to make sure that's the right content. And people, I had a friend of mine. I was talking about marketing a couple of years back. He's like, "Oh, I don't do any marketing stuff. That's not my thing." But it has to be your thing. You got to do it.
The only thing
nowadays, yeah.
Talk about how tough it is and how important. Like we talked about organization, but with content marketing, it's extremely important.
Well, so coming from my background of growing a production company from 2 people to like 13, like I told you when we did the little history lesson, I had the unique opportunity to sell and market voiceover and production in every way imaginable over the last 27 years. That's from cold calling. That's going to trade shows. That's creating ads for industry magazines. That's doing SEO and newsletters and email blasts, you name it. I had the opportunity to take a shot at it. Some things I did well, some things I tripped over my, what, and did terribly.
And that's going to happen.
It happens. But when, a few years ago, I was starting to pay attention to other people on LinkedIn, for example. And that was the big kind of eureka moment for me. And I started to watch and absorb these people who were having conversations with me, not directly to me, but they were doing video or they were putting out information. They weren't necessarily saying, "Hey, I want you to hire me." They weren't doing that. They were giving out free stuff. They're saying, "Hey, if you're going to tackle this, do it this way. If you want to succeed in this field, try this." And what I figured out is they are developing something called know, like, and trust. When's the last time you bought something from someone you didn't like?
I have never bought anything from somebody.
Never. Yeah. And then if it occurred to me that at that moment, all the sales that I might have generated in the 20 some odd years before I started really paying attention to this stuff is that I always knew that, okay, I was a pretty good audio producer. I was a pretty good creative director. I was a pretty good production manager, but I always knew that there were people that were better than me. I hired them to work for us. Right. We competed against them. But why did we consistently have billing every month, year after year after year? It's because they developed a rapport with me. I was able to engage with them, to get to know them, to have them trust me.
Not just sell them something.
Not just say buy for me. It's like, they enjoyed my company. They wanted to know how my wife was doing. They wanted to know how my kid, how many hits he got on Saturday, whatever it was. And that eureka moment was like, wait a minute, that's how I got to start selling. And I I jumped in, and my initial content, I know I teach it now, and I'd like to say I teach it well. When my first content was pathetic. It was awful.
Yeah, but you got to, like you said, you got to put it out there and make mistakes to fix it, to make it better.
Totally. And learn what works. But it is, to be able to be ever present. That's what we're trying to teach with this content marketing stuff. Yeah. Know, like, and trust, but be ever present. There's a reason why, McDonald's has golden arches and not green arches. There's a reason why the shape of the Nike swoosh. It's because it's everywhere.
Right.
And what I'm trying to teach voiceover people to do is there's no reason why you can't market yourself like a big company, like a big brand, even though you don't even have to have a lot of money or tremendous resources. You have a content production machine in your laptop and your cell phone. You just got to know how to tap into it, and you got to be willing to put the work in. And I tried my best to not just talk the talk and say, you have to market your content. I try to walk the walk too. And I try to put out a lot of things because I'm living proof that if you give, eventually you will get, because people will understand that you're an authority on whatever subject that is. People will get attached, or they'll gravitate towards your style. Not everybody has my style. Everyone's a little different, but you will develop your audience based upon who likes the way you conduct yourself and how you do it. And when you mix those two things together, the asks for business don't come from you. They come to you.
Yeah.
And I have case after case after case where, as long as the talent puts in the work, puts in the effort, and sticks with it, because it's not instant gratification. We've talked a lot about this. If you consistently get your name out there, attach your brand to everything that you do, embrace it, be proud of it, and not worry about, geez, I've said that 30 times in the last week. Exactly. That's exactly what you want to do. Because you're in the thick of it, and you're constantly saying, Brad Storm, Big Jim. You feel like, I'm probably annoying people. I don't want to annoy anyone. No.
Right. Absolutely.
Go annoy everybody. Because you know what? You'll annoy some people, and then they're going to save you a lot of time. You won't have to deal with them. But then at the same token, you're going to get people that are going to be fans of yours, and they're going to want to hang out with you. And they're going to want to open up their wallet for you. It happens. It's human nature. And that's what we're trying to teach.
Why don't you just plug all your social media accounts and anything else you want to plug?
Yeah, if someone wants to find me, I obviously have a pretty decent online footprint. I have several shows out there. The current ones are, I do Ringside. That's on LinkedIn Live, typically Tuesdays at 3 p.m. I have Go Get It Live on Facebook. I usually do that once or twice a month. That's a longer show, 45 minutes. I have the Go Get It podcast. That's usually an interview style where I've interviewed Randy Thomas and Chuck Duran and Joan Baker. A lot of
toe to toe.
Yeah, go toe to toe with these VO heavyweights, and had some great discussions with them. And then I also have One More Round podcast. The One More Round podcast is basically go get it goodness in 5 minutes or less. We take snippets, little best of clips of a lot of my Facebook Live shows, and we put them together as kind of like a little rock radio segment. I work with a very talented audio producer named Ed Bishop. I don't know if you've ever met Ed or heard of Ed. He's out of Dallas area.
Okay.
And he's awesome. He helps me assemble that show. So I have those shows. Obviously, you can find me on the internet at CoreyDissin.com. I'm on the big 4 social media platforms: Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Twitter. And 888-Corey84. Got the vanity number too, brother.
Guys can check me out, bradstormvo.com, bradstormvo on Twitter and Instagram, and Bradstorm Voiceover on Facebook. What about yourself there, Big Jim?
BigJimMedia.com is currently in the works as well, but that is live. You can check me out there, or BigJimVoiceover.com is another one. Big Jim Media on LinkedIn, Big Jim VO on Facebook. Corey, I want to thank you again for joining us today. Man, it has been amazing. Huge learning experience. And I appreciate it. Again, thank you for being here. We'd love to have you back again.
Man, we appreciate your time, my friend. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. And remember to punch every day in the face.